Welcome back to another Daily Insight. I'm your host, Danavan Hylton, relationship management expert and business and creative advisor. And fun fact, a registered Lord of Glencoe in the country of Scotland, courtesy of Highland titles. And so we're going to jump into a conversation dealing more so with what one may call community insight from that perspective, especially as I have a service of providing promotional opportunities and more to urban areas, not only within respectfully the United States, but as I grow my brand within and around African diaspora countries and relations. And so, thus, for those that may not know, the term Lord is respectfully, I believe it's more of a UK, United Kingdom culture. And a Lord is someone that over in the United Kingdom, which I believe is like more on the parliament side of a bureaucracy or government. Respectfully, if I'm not speaking out of ignorance, um, they focus more on on the parliament side, but Lord on that side is referred to as someone a master of their skill, as well as a landowner, and so it could be a stretch, but um, having a plot of land through Highland titles. And I think there should be a link in the description for you to take a look at and do your research. But having a plot of land in Highland titles, from my perspective, and being a master in my skill, in my craft, and looking to do business and provide opportunities in the United Kingdom and African diaspora countries. That's why the Lordship title was created, and this is why we're jumping into community insight from a again urban perspective, urban areas, but it's more with African diaspora and international relations. Just giving you some clarity, some insight into that. And so the reason I want to bring this one up, and at all times, respectfully, it's about emotional intelligence. At all times, respectfully, it's about emotional intelligence. And so we definitely want to exercise that. But in exercising emotional intelligence, there are some that delve and serve and are around sensitive situations. And there's a lot of sensitive situations because we respect and honor everyone's perspective. But at the same time, focusing on community engagement, what I provide as a brand of service, and especially in urban areas in African diaspora countries, I definitely want to make sure I highlight just an article that came across my way simply because I've been following this for a while and of course, just sending my love and prayers to the situation and I say that humbly. And so this popped up and wanted to make sure I just shared this from a again community insight, urban area perspective. And I want to shout out the Guardian for powering this article, theguardian.com. This is based in the area of, if we look, this is more of an international relations, foreign affairs situation. We're dealing around the world, and we have it bolded on Africa, and then we're talking about Sudan. And I've been following this story for a while, respectfully. Why are they forgetting about us? Sudan watches allies turn from war to aid Ukraine and Gaza. Now, respectfully, this is public information, so I'm from the outside looking in. And I'm not saying this is why it's important to not take anything respectfully at face value. Check it out, do your research, ask questions, stimulate the mind. But at all times, you want to give thanks and praise for all things working for good and things working out as quickly as possible at the end of the day. And so, why are they forgetting about us? Is that a true statement? Is that a controversial statement? What comes to your mind when you see that? Sudan watches allies turn from war to aid Ukraine and Gaza. And so, if you're not aware, there is some conflict going on in Sudan. I don't know the capacity, but I do follow from an international perspective, especially in African diaspora areas, as I'm looking to help in those areas, help them generate more leads, increase their brand awareness, help them with cross promotion opportunities, provide insight, access, and resources, whatever to my abilities, to provide opportunities for increasing of a base as well as the empowerment of your community presence. And so that's a lot of marketing and public relations perspective, customer service at the same time. But jumping into this in Sudan, why are they forgetting about us? Sudan watches allies turn from war to aid Ukraine and Gaza. And so I want to shout out Chris Stein, if I'm saying that correctly, in Washington. And this is at Chris J Stein on Twitter. Excuse me, I think it's X. Forgive me on that. This is Sunday, December 4th, 2023. Shout out to my man Chris Stein in Washington. Sudanese military conflict has killed thousands and created what UN says is world's largest human displacement crisis. This is why I'm bringing it to the table, respectfully. I'm going to read that again humbly. Sudanese military conflict has killed thousands and created what UN, United Nations, says is world's largest human displacement crisis. Respectfully to all of us trying to survive out here. And so for that reason, I just want to stand in agreement for the covering, whatever to the highest capacity, because that's real. And I say that respectfully. Sudanese military conflict has killed thousands and created what UN says is world's largest human displacement crisis. And so when I look at that, I'm just, definitely want to do some more research into Sudan, its origins, its purpose, its functions, respectfully, to get a better, insight into what's going on. I can't take nothing at face value, but I'm just looking for awareness at this point. And I just wanted to stop and I'm reading this article for the first time. It was just something that popped up. And again, I want to introduce you to the lifestyle and mindset that I'm in and around. And so I wanted to make sure we did not, I'm following it and I'm talking about and giving thanks and making sure that, just praying for peace. And I just wanted to, again, just step outside the comfort zone. So if you don't, I'm not sure if you hadn't had a chance to watch my pre-recording of stepping outside your comfort zone to maximize your life, definitely want you to check out that webinar. I believe it's about 45 minutes to an hour. Definitely want to step outside your comfort zone. That's why I'm here bringing this up. Civilians fleeing conflict wait for asylum procedures in Rink, South Sudan on 18 December 2023. Photograph Amar Yassar. Respectfully want to shout him out for the picture. AFP, Getty Images. The eruption of gunfire in Sudan's capital on 15 April was not a complete surprise to Mohammed Issa, a gastroenterologist living in Pittsburgh, who had returned to Sudan to bury his father. He had seen pickup trucks full of armed men circling the streets of Khartoum and was aware of the rivalry between the country's military and the Rapid Support Forces paramilitary group, respectfully. So this is, as I'm just kind of give you like, okay, well, how does this work if you were, in Donovan's field? So as I'm looking to get insight, intelligence, information, that's a key point, respectfully, to the situation, because I'm from the outside in, and all I want to do is, best I can, is to be the best individual I can be for myself, those around me, and for the world, and whatever that looks like. And so, I look to push that as well. So I don't cast the first stone, if you will, but I see something here, rivalry between the country's military and the Rapid Support Forces paramilitary group. So those are things that, could get some more research on. And again, nothing goes at face value. You have to do research and, cross-examine and everything else to come up with the best educated decision as possible. Even if that means, asking others for insight. And again, you have to get your information, but also follow, your instincts on that as well. It's very tricky and it's an art to that. We can jump into that in another conversation. As open warfare erupted that Saturday, Issa expected the combat would be brief. Africa's third largest country lies on the strategic Red Sea and shares borders with a number of states important to Western powers like the United States and their allies in the Gulf and Europe, all players whom he expected to end the clash between the armed groups. Hmm. A number of states important to Western powers like the United States and their allies in the Gulf and Europe, all powers whom he expected to end the clash between the armed groups. I get it for sure. And first thing, I'm not going to get too deep into it, but the first thing that comes to my mind is okay, well, this is what you should think, when you're looking to provide solutions to challenges, possibly the best you can. Okay, well, what resources do I have available to me or around me to, and this is all within integrity, doing it to the highest of love and standard of human life and what is existing before us and after us, just playing our part respectfully to see how we can bring peace and prosperity to challenges respectfully. And those that may not be going through a challenge, you definitely want to give thanks and live and walk to that as best you can. Nobody's perfect, but it's the highest of standards, because there's people that were in environments born into that. It's a lot of challenges, and you just in a situation where you want to survive, not just thrive, but you want to just survive. And so I've always talked about surviving and thriving, the difference and how they interplay, and a lot of times your environment plays a role in that. You know, so a number of states important to Western powers like the United States and their allies in the Gulf and Europe, all players whom he expected to end the clash between the armed groups. So he's definitely looking for help, um, or basically looking for help or expecting the allies to jump in. That's why I thought this is going to be contained very quickly, or on the big players internationally, the United States and the European Union. And Issa recalled. And as I stay in my own lane, that's a big request to whatever, that's a request that obviously is essential coming from a country, and it could be a gift or a curse, however you want to look at it. But being a type of ally to help diplomatically, bring peace is so important. And so that just comes to my mind as far as what resources are available. And it all deals with emotional intelligence and conversation and love and peace and patience and all those fruits of the spirits, if you will, that come to play. It's very important because it's a lot of moving parts. Instead, the opposite occurred. The conflict between the RSF and the Sudanese armed forces has now raged for 8 months with no end in sight, killing thousands of people and creating what the United Nations says is the world's largest human displacement crisis. And I listen and think of that, and I'm familiar to some degree with displacement because as municipalities start to grow and expand, the surrounding areas and counties in the U.S. start to feel the economic boom as well. And so there's a lot of housing and commercial development, redevelopment, revitalization, some may call it gentrification, a lot of moving parts going on to where people, if you really don't own your property, end up getting displaced by force or early in the phase by choice, and they have to relocate. And so working in the area where the people are moving out of because the economic situation is increasing, and working with those that are receiving new residents coming from growing economic areas because they're looking for something more sustainable and affordable in their budget, dealing on both sides and working with and helping to make sure things are smooth. When I hear displacement, I have an idea of that. And when I think of the world's largest human displacement crisis, that's not something to dismiss. And that's why I just wanted to bring it to the table. Any of my followers that have access and peace and love and insight to help bring to the table to this is why I'm throwing it out there, just to see, what can be done to help. Again, it's a lot of moving parts. Beyond trapping civilians and destroying infrastructure, don't even dismiss that. Beyond, I don't even dismiss that. Trapping civilians and destroying infrastructure in a country that already struggles with high rates of poverty. I just don't want to dismiss none of that. International observers have accused both sides of committing war crimes. And I'm going to highlight that as well, because that's really where you look at, okay, you had the people that are conflicting, You have the people that are in the middle of the conflict saying, "Oh, we thought our larger allies were going to help, just help maintain this respectfully." And international observers have accused both sides of committing war crimes. That's a lot going on. I mean, I just really want you to, it's not funny in any way. It's just a lot going on that, I'm glad that this public information is here and just wanted to highlight it. Evidence is also emerging. And if you click that link, it'll go to something else, which I don't want to get into. We'll just click that link, that the RSF and their allies have massacred members of an African ethnic group in West Darfur, potentially repeating the genocide. Another link that took place there 2 decades ago. From the Sudanese diaspora, the conflict between the two military fractions is the latest depressing turn of events for a country that just a few years ago seemed on the path to shaking off decades of dictatorship. In 2019, the despotic President Omar al-Bashir was overthrown by security forces after months of street protests, but those same forces staged a coup in 2021 that ended the transition to a democratic civilian-led government and intensified the issues that brought the RSF and SAF to war in April of this year. So that gives you a little bit about the process, and if you want to go back into that and re-look at that, and that's going to help with a lot of the not introduction to the meat of what's going on, respectfully. The United States has one of the largest populations of Sudanese in the West, numbering around 51,000 people, according to the Migration Policy Institute. Definitely want to look them up. Shout out to the Migration Policy Institute. Didn't know they existed. And the Sudanese in the West, in the U.S., there's a numbering around 51,000 people. So it's definitely something that, respectfully, I'm not speaking out of ignorance, the Sudanese residents of the U.S., are thinking and praying on and giving thanks on in regards to peace being done quickly, because it's definitely essential. The UK Office for National Statistics estimates 35,000 people born in Sudan, are living in Britain. So you got roughly almost 90,000 people within the United States and Britain. No one was expecting this. No one was prepared for it, said Ibrahim Babakur, a Virginia-based activist with Fan, a pro-democracy group whose volunteers have shifted to getting food and medical supplies to cut off areas of Khartoum and elsewhere in the country. And it's not a lot of media publicity about this, respectfully, and that's why I do want to shout out Ibrahim Babakur. I'm not familiar with Jurafina, forgive me for mispronouncing that, a pro-democracy group whose volunteers have shifted to getting food and medical supplies to cut off areas of Khartoum and elsewhere in the country. I'm not familiar, so respectfully, I hope we're all working out of integrity here. But the work that they're doing in this regard, is obviously been highlighted. So I want to shout out at least the effort, for that being done. And can more of those efforts increase? And there's a lot going on around the world. So I know there's a lot, and everybody's doing the best they can, I'm sure. So it's not a slight to, we're not doing enough. All we can do is bring awareness and help the best way we can. 7 million people have fled their homes due to the fighting that began in April, according to the United Nations and the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project, a Wisconsin-based crisis mapping group, estimates 12,190 people have been killed. That's a lot. And 7 million people, first of all, fled their homes due to the fighting that has begun in April. And living and working in urban core areas, and where there's a lot of business districts and commercial and commerce going on that really sustains a capitalistic society, you can't respectfully have 7 million people fleeing their homes and expecting, at the minimum, from the physical, economical, financial perspective, sustainable cash flow and business in an area for people to work and, as they say, stay out the way, and pursue their visions and things of that nature. You can't have that with people fleeing because there's no sustainability there, respectfully. So, according to the United Nations, and I want to shout out the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project as well. It's just, even this is likely an undercount. Even this is likely an undercount since many of the areas we're fighting since many of the areas where fighting is happening are inaccessible to independent observers. Earlier this month, the World Food Program warned war racked areas could face catastrophic hunger by May unless more food assistance gets in. So, yeah, I'm just letting you, I don't want to, I'm letting you, we're just bringing this out so we can be aware, strategize respectfully. Sudan has dealt with civil wars practically since independence in 1956, which led to its southern half splitting off to form South Sudan. And as I my own business, I stay in my own lane. Again, when you're looking at some type of commercial production, the challenges to include civil wars have to be at a minimum to non-existent, respectfully. And so it's saying here that the civil wars practically there's been civil wars practically since independence, 1956. And fun fact, I'll throw it out there. I think it's maybe over 250. I don't know if this has any. I don't know if they have constitutions down there at the look, and see what government system they have set up. But I just won't jump too deep into it. But just the fact that having consistent civil war since 1956, it's just hard to, from a commercial perspective, move things forward. But this war is unique in that one of its main battlegrounds in Khartoum, the capital and the heart of a state that is home to an estimated 9.4 million people. So it's definitely you're not going to get any kind of commerce and movement. And someone once told me, I don't know how true it is. I don't know, but someone once told me, I'm all, one common ground to bring peace to a certain extent is when groups can come together to make money. And that's going to be forever, however long. I'm not saying it's going to be peace, kumbaya forever, but common ground where people can kind of see beyond. And that's why it's somewhat very influential is currency. Because if you're able to help bring currency to both sides, if you will, you can at least open up an opportunity for a working relationship, whatever that looks like. And so when you have your capital and your heart of the state with an estimated 9.4 million people, respectfully, going through those challenges, the main battleground, it's has to obviously stop, but then you also have to rebuild, and then you have to build trust in the international sectors in order for people to invest and to start to, want to produce in your area. It's a lot, unless you're living on a different system of survival, if you will. But even capitalism wise, you definitely want certainty and you definitely want legitimacy, whatever that looks like to your side, But if you want to bring people in to do business with you and all that, you got to have your stuff together respectfully for them to come in and do what they do. They're going to do what they do respectfully. So you got to be tight respectfully. And so the months of fighting have left bodies strewn in its streets, destroyed densely populated neighborhoods, damaged crucial bridge over the Nile River, and gutted the skyline, including a prominent oil company headquarters and the Justice Ministry. 3 months of fighting. I don't dismiss none of this and I don't speak on this lightly. If nothing counted to my heart, I just wanted to bring awareness for at least myself to say, hey, what can you do within your power just to bring peace? And if there was other situations where there could be peace, guess what? I'm working on that too. But not but, and addition to that, I have a niche of respectfully urban areas, African diaspora, and international relations and community insight. And these are the things that, I bring to the table as far as community engagement. That's what it is, community engagement. And so And there's benefits to that, if you're a larger, brand. And that's why I want to shout out, respect, not shout out, but I just want to, acknowledge the United States and the European Union, if you will, because you can see that this country is like, oh, I thought, allies were going to kind of step in. Now, I don't know if they stepped in, if it would be integral. I don't know about any of that. But it's to a point now where folks are looking for, respectfully help to end this and to bring peace, I would assume, you know. And so a prominent oil company that's headquartered in that area and the Justice Ministry. I think this is what people have not realized, that this is not business as usual. You're not going to be delivering assistance as you did it before, or fundamentally the country is being broken, as Bashar Hamid, the CEO of Shabaka, a United Kingdom-based research organization that after the start of the conflict founded the Sudan Crisis Coordination Unit to act as a clearinghouse for the information about the situations on the ground. So this is huge right here in regards to, as we go through the article, you now have a, for now, respectfully, credible, legitimate, certain source that can act as a clearinghouse for the information about the situation on the ground, the Sudan Crisis Coordinating Unit. Shout out to Bashar Ahmed, the CEO of Shabaka, a United Kingdom-based research organization. And that's why, for those that may be like, Lord Donovan, there's a lot going on around the world, and having the registered Lord title just for the sake of my own preference, no more, no less, and being able to, when you step into those areas, Lord willing, you get there, you step into those areas, you want to already be walking in those situations. I'll never forget, I got promoted from one job to the next because there are people that are clearly longer than me and were way more qualified. And I asked the directors and decision makers. I didn't even put in for the job. I had no idea. I was the new guy. I've been there for a little over 2 years, but I'm still the new guy compared to the others, guy or gal. And I'm the new guy. I'm the new guy. And so um, they said, "Now we want to offer you the position." I'm sure I got paid a lot less than what you're supposed to get paid because I was a new guy that wasn't really qualified. But they said, Donovan, you were working at this director level already without getting paid for it. And so that's why when the opportunity came, we gave you the job. I'll never forget those words. And I put it into anyone looking to make something happen for their life. You got to walk into that as if, respectfully. And I was doing it literally, I was working at that level because I was happy to be there. I was coming from I was coming from the manufacturing industries, and doing those type of works. And here I am. I can walk around in a suit all day and walk into an air conditioned office and help people help people with their career training and learn and be around corporate and find other businesses that want to work with these. It was another conference. I was serving as in the career college, career education, career college sector and field. Don't want to get too off track, but ultimately I got way off track on that one. But it's just walking into that, it's powerful walking into that. So that's why I saw UK based. For those that don't get it, I'm already, in that area. And obviously talking about situations like this, it's just, it's the only way for things to happen, in your life. A view of Yurong, refugee, and I want to stop real quick and apologize forgive me if I'm mispronouncing anyone's name or any of the misspelling or the pronunciations of the names of what I'm saying. I know I'm definitely off, but again, just want to help bring promotion and awareness. A view of Yurong refugee camp in Adre, Chad on 7 December 2023, where refugees fleeing the conflict in Sudan live. And I want to shout out photographer Dennis Sasu, Juniper AFP, and Getty Images. And so obviously, if you're looking there of the refugee camp, my heart just pours out. My heart just pours out at the end of the day. And that's just, I don't, heart pours out. Many of those displaced from Khartoum went to Sudan's second city, Wad Madani, and are now fleeing again after the RSF stormed it a few days ago. Clashes have also resumed in El Fashar, the last majority city in Darfur still under army control. again, I don't have enough information. It's my first time reading this. I've been following the situation. The headline caught my attention to where I wanted to speak on it today, but I don't have enough information about the warring factions and what they're looking to accomplish out of this. What are your goals? What are you looking to accomplish out of this? To see, what everything looks like. After fleeing Khartoum by road and then taking a boat to Saudi Arabia, Escher returned to the U.S., where he is the Secretary General of the Sudanese American Physicians Association. I want to shout that out as a local point of contact if you're in the U.S. I want to shout out again Saudi Arabia, or not again, but Saudi Arabia, because now I see they are indirectly involved in this because people are fleeing there. So you got to look at countries where people are going to, and this is a lot. It's a lot around the world where that's going on. So the Sudanese American Physicians Association. Definitely want to see if we can get a conversation with Issa on this, on a podcast. With Sudan's healthcare system barely able to cope with the war's impact, the association is now focused on providing supplies and money to clinics and hospitals caught up in the war or overwhelmed by displaced people. And I can just imagine I can't imagine, but I can have an idea to some degree of what challenges are going in through that. Both diaspora and international humanitarian groups acknowledge Sudan's needs are competing with the crisis in Gaza and Ukraine, where Russia's invasion will soon enter its third year. Let me read that one more time. Both diaspora and international humanitarian groups acknowledge Sudan's needs are competing with the crisis in Gaza and Ukraine, where Russia's invasion will soon enter its third year. And again, that's the whole point of why this article caught my attention, was because of the title. And again, respect to all situations, as I'm speaking out of ignorance, and but there's a lot of focus on the crisis in Gaza and Ukraine. And so I can see where you can't cover it all. What I'm hearing, it's not a right or wrong thing, but what I'm hearing is a lot of times when I'm reaching out to media and I'm promoting a project or an event or activity, and I reach out to the media, to my normal contacts, they always tell me, Donovan, we know you, you're our guy. Thank you for calling the newsroom. But at the end of the day, we don't make decisions really until the day of, as far as where we're going to go with our news team, because we got to look at what's the most essential for the news. And then from there, we pick kind of where we're going to go. So anyone that's always looking to reach out to the media to get them to come cover your event, there's no guarantee, and they usually make their decision the day of. And that's why it's important for you to build working relationships with the newsroom, because it is about who you know and your relationships and providing good customer service to the media, because when you reach out to them, they're going to keep you in mind if there's non-essential room for them to cover things, if that makes sense. So it's a process. You just can't call them and they show up, if that makes sense. And so moving forward, the United Nations said it had received from donors only 39% of the $2.6 billion it needs to respond to the Sudan's crisis. The United Nations said it has received from donors only 39% of the $2.6 billion it needs to respond to Sudan's crisis, with about half of that money coming from the U.S. Okay, so we're looking at the U.S. roughly 20% being distributed, toward the crisis. I'm not quite sure, respectfully, what the U.S.'s obligations are to that, but I give thanks in advance for that obligation being fulfilled. But those are things that come to my mind as far as, okay, well, where are we with that, respectfully? We're about 40% received as far as donations of the 2.6 billion. 40% is roughly 1.2 billion, 1.1 billion received. And of that 1.1, 1.2 billion, the U.S. has donated roughly a little over 500,000, which is a big shout out. Is that all that's the U.S. is giving? 500,000? It's a question. The United Nations said it had received from donors only 39% of the 2.6 billion it needs to respond to Sudan's crisis. So the U.S. has donated roughly 600,000 to the United Nations for the crisis, toward the crisis. Washington is viewed as taking the lead in trying to mediate between the warring sides, although negotiations are reportedly deadlocked. There's another article there, and it looks like the article is about Sudanese warring parties dig Jeddah talks falter again. And that was an article from December 6, 2023. We'll definitely love to jump into that one in the near future. But Washington is viewed as taking the lead in trying to mediate between the warring sides. Huge shout out, thank you. Although the negotiations are deadlocked. We'd love to see what that conversation looks like. In August, the United Kingdom's or UK's Africa Minister, Andrew Mitchell, I want to shout him out, the UK's Africa Minister. Didn't know there was an Africa Minister. Didn't know that, United Kingdom. Got to pull out the Lordship title and hit him up. In August, the UK's, or talk with them as far as slang. In August, the United Kingdom's Africa Minister, Andrew Mitchell, said evidence suggested serious atrocities are being committed against civilians in the country. Don't want to dismiss that. Evidence suggested serious atrocities are being committed against civilians in the country, especially in Darfur. And this month, the U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, said both warring parties have committed war crimes, while the RSF and its allies have committed crimes against humanity and ethnic cleansing. And this is why, coming from the outside in, and I'll use the United States as an example, I know there's challenges going on within the U.S. and, people want certain people to be in positions and things like that. I get it. And so there's a lot of things going on internally within the family of the U.S. But at the end of the day, the U.S. from the outside looking in is one body. And so for the fact of the U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, who, for me, my perspective, whoever's in that position, doesn't, we have you have your own internal things within the U.S., but from an international affair, the U.S. having the Secretary of State involved in that and helping to lead that helps to bring some type, I would assume, some type of direction toward peace, because the U.S. is a huge mover and shaker, and so I would that's why I just definitely want to uplift and, those that are, these positions, because we pray out of, everyone's integral and doing the best they can. It's a lot going on. And from an outside looking in, definitely want to shout out from what I can see here being documented, the U.S. Secretary of the U.S. and Secretary of State, just being involved and working with the UK's African Minister, Andrew Mitchell. To what degree and capacity, I don't know. Definitely open to, I don't know where I can step in, but just if I can promote and help bring resources or help, get into people's ears and say, hey, look, this is what we need to talk to, definitely there for that. Washington has sanctioned RSF commanders and former Bashir officials for their role in the conflict, and the U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris recently discussed the war with United Arab Emirates President Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. Boy, this is what I mean. Now you get into the big game, respectfully, because I didn't know there's sanctionings going on, and we have, respectfully, United States' first African American female president. On top of that, Kamala Harris, discussing the war with the United Arab Emirates president. So this is a conversation going on around the world, and that's why I know people are going to Saudi Arabia. It's a lot of, it's, there's challenges going on, but the saying is, if you don't help your neighbor with their challenges, then their challenges will soon become your challenges. If you don't help your neighbor find solutions to their challenges, then soon their challenges will become your challenges. I don't know if that's true or not, but when I was brought to my attention way back when, I didn't want to put it to the test. And so I've always had a heart of saying, hey, within reason and grace, what can I do to help? And so I want to shout out, U.S. President Kamala Harris. Glad to see the U.S. involved in this, working with the U.K. and with the United Arab Emirates and the President Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. and just seeing, just recognizing. News outlets have reported that the UAE is sending the RSF weapons and treating its fighters at an airbase in Chad near the border with Sudan. That's a spin that I didn't see coming. News outlets have reported. And so when I'm making my shout outs, I'm thinking that everyone's working together to bring peace. I don't know the situation, but that's my heart and mind of even promoting this. How do we work together to bring peace? What are the challenges? News outlets have reported that the UAE is sending the RSF weapons and treating its fighters at an airbase in Chad in the near border of Sudan. So I'm curious to hear what the other side, not curious, but I mean, what does the other side feel about that? So I'm shouting out the UAE, if I'm not speaking out of ignorance, UAE, the United Arab Emirates president, who the United States vice president is talking with, and they're treating the particular side at a base. So again, I don't know enough of what's going on and all the players at play and why what's going on, but it's just bringing awareness and from an international perspective of those that are in the U.S. The White House is in a protracted negotiation with Congress over approving military aid for both Israel and Ukraine. But despite Sudan's unraveling over the past 8 months, Joe Biden has not appointed a special envoy to the country, and its predecessors did, as his predecessors did. I'm gonna read that again because this is all new to me. The White House is in a protracted negotiation. Now, when you click the link, the hyperlink pops up talking about Senate vote Ukraine. So there's another article going on. It doesn't say the whole thing, but there's an article coming up. So the White House is in a protracted negotiation with Congress. So when I say the White House, I'm assuming the executive branch or the president's office is in conversations with Congress, House of Representatives, if you will, and Senate, House of Representatives at the minimum, over approving military aid for both Israel and Ukraine. But despite Sudan's unraveling over the past 8 months, Joe Biden has not appointed a special envoy to the country, as his predecessors did. I think that's huge, especially when you're looking for more community buy-in, community engagement, both in a direct and indirect way. These are the things that can really make your brand shine, if you will, and to really help change perspectives and get buy-in. And respectfully, I feel like there has to be an appointed special envoy. If I'm not speaking out of ignorance, because you have to definitely put awareness on this, because you have, respectfully, you have diverse residents within your country if you're in the US, and these are all things that help build buy-in. Like, okay, I'm coming from here, or I have ties to there, and that's what makes the US so great, because it's so diverse, but also so challenging because you have to move and so many moving parts, So with that being said, this may not be a big link in the chain, but it's still a link in the chain if you want sustainability and progression. And not nobody's, but just people can look up and say, oh, okay, this is really, the US is really, being a part of this. I'm not saying they're not, but these things right here can really help. And that's why I speak on a lot of civic relations for those that are a candidate running for office, campaign to become an elected official, or for those that are a elected official or bureaucrat. I speak on this highly. I have a YouTube channel, Vote for Danavan Hylton, VOTE, the numerical number 4, Danavan Hylton, and it just speaks about my civic experiences and relations and engagements and education experiences. And I'm always bringing up campaign early, if you will. Even if you want to do a PR perspective, campaign early and get certain things done where you can look up and say, the truth is incontrovertible. I don't need to talk about it. I don't need to run around and speak on it. People that know me and see what I do will help share the word and the work that I do. And the truth is incontrovertible. Malice may attack it, ignorance may deride it, but in the end, there it is. And so it's moments like these, respectfully, that you can really put yourself in the buy-in position for people like, oh man, we didn't have to do a whole uproar. We didn't have to go and protest, or we didn't have to do too much to bring awareness to our elected officials that are representing our district to get certain things done in a diverse perspective in a diverse way. If you see that as essential for the overall advancement of the unit, you don't have to, but this is one of those moments. I don't know this word, but I'm gonna try to say it anyways. Refugees catch with jerry cans to collect drinking water from Medellin San Fronteras at the Urich refugee camp in Adre on the 7th of December 2023. Again, shout out Dennis Asu, Girapur, AFP, and Getty Images for the picture. So, Cameron Hudson, who served as chief of staff to several former envoys, is now a senior associate at the Center for Strategic International Studies, says such an appointee could articulate the administration's response to the crisis, rally U.S. allies, and fill the void created when the American embassy in Khartoum evacuated after the fighting began. There's your solution at the minimum, or the start of your solution. Because presence is everything, respectfully, or presence counts for a lot. That's why I'm saying, I don't want to go there, but presence counts for a lot. And so Cameron Hudson, who served as a chief of staff to several former envoys and now a senior associate at the Center of Strategic International Studies. Shout out. Love to dig deeper into these brands and people. Want to get on the podcast as we jump into the international conversations. Said such an appointee could articulate the administration's response to the crisis. That is huge. Rally U.S. allies and fill the void created when the American embassy in Khartoum evacuated after the fighting began. It's essential. He also said Blinken missed an opportunity. By using a press release to declare the atrocities were happening rather than an in-person speech. He also said a former chief of staff to several envoys, respectfully. These are very essential. We're talking about community engagement. As we know, we're busy. But these are the little things. The former chief of staff of several envoys said that our Secretary of State, respectfully, missed an opportunity by using a press release to declare the atrocities were happening rather than an in-person speech. So apparently that's important if we don't know that. Presentation counts for a lot. And though some areas may not be as productive as others, that's why, a lot of times when I get contracted to do community engagement and serve as a broker, if you will, and a liaison between community groups and residents and corporate brands, what makes a lot of the needle move forward is treating the residents or the party that you're looking to connect with the respect of as if they are a corporate brand. Don't come to them half doing. If you know that you have the resources, get your documentation together, get it printed up on some nice paperwork, get it nice and sealed, get the good paper, get your PowerPoint presentation together, make sure they have food and water, and they feel like they're coming into and they're Fortune 500 CEO, because that's in principle the foundation of truth. That's what we're doing here. You can't sit here and expect someone not to buy in if you not treating them with the honor that they feel they deserve. And sometimes you feel like they don't deserve that honor, but that's a diplomatic game. You got to be able to provide the sense of feeling at the minimum. That's why emotional intelligence is so important. Where they're saying respectfully, a press release was great, we appreciate it, but an in-person speech would have went a lot further to bring awareness. So I just want to highlight that for myself, especially if I'm looking to be a statesman or a statesperson and someone looking to be a liaison. You got to know when to use certain presentation strategies. Hudson contrasted it with the former Secretary of State Colin Powell's 2004 appearance before a U.S. Senate committee to announce that genocide has been committed in Darfur, which was crucial to highlighting the conflict's severity. And there you see the difference, respectfully. And again, I don't know what's going on. There's a lot of situations going on. I know everyone's busy, working hard, but that was a piece like that. Like that's a piece that someone involved or experienced in these type of situations felt like that could have helped contribute to the situation. And we want to keep these type of articles to a minimum, challenges in these places, because the less articles like these that are created, the more that's showing there's peace and sustainability, and that's what you want for an area that's looking to produce and provide commerce and be a part of the world stage. Respectfully, these type of activities and experiences are not good all the way around. I don't know enough about it, but there's certain points in situations where you have to be there and sharp in order to change the trajectory of situations. And so I just want to highlight this whole paragraph, compared to, actual Secretary of State Colin Powell in 2004 appeared before the U.S. Senate committee to announce that genocide has been committed in Darfur, which was crucial to highlighting that conflict's severity. For somebody who's been watching this issue for 20 years myself, every step of the way seems like a kind of downgrade, Hudson said. Wow. Now, Hudson could be a huge stakeholder in this, to whatever degree, because he has experience in whatever degree and insight to whatever degree. You need all hands on deck. I reject the notion that Gaza or Ukraine are just too much for this administration to handle because previous administrations have been able to handle major geopolitical shifts and even wars that America was involved in and have enough bandwidth to care about what's happening in this country. So I don't fully understand why today is particularly different from 15 or 20 years ago, but it is in every single measure that you can look at. That is so powerful. That is so powerful. Because this is what is the perception. And this person is not the spokesperson for everyone in the situation, but it gives you a good insight. And I always like to say, if this one person feels this, how many other could feel the same way? And you want to be able to answer questions before they're asked. And so when I think of this question, I got to do my research to see, how many people feel this way, because, it's a lot of moving parts. And this not only affects, and we're assuming this is going to be resolved, but this not only affects the situation now, but it creates memories for the future, and allies just don't appear out of nowhere. They look at situations that happen, and they're like, okay, we're going to keep these things in mind, So, and I do respect the fact, and I appreciate the fact that, this individual feels that, the American administration has the bandwidth to take care of this. I don't know. I'm not in that position, but U.S. is a huge mover and shaker. I'm learning as I get deeper into the game, as far as just, I would say, bringing peace. Now, I don't know. Again, there's a lot going on. I don't know. I would hope everyone's doing everything integrally, because these challenges are not cool. I know it's just a lot. I don't want to get too deep into it. Last week, the top Democratic and Republican lawmakers on the House and Senate committees handling foreign affairs proposed resolutions calling on the Biden administration to appoint a special envoy to Sudan, sanction the warring parties, and investigate atrocities. I like that. I like that. Okay. Last week, top Democratic and Republican lawmakers. I like the unification there. On the House and the Senate committees. Big ups. Handling foreign affairs proposed resolutions calling on the Biden administration to appoint a special envoy to Sudan, sanction the warring parties, and investigate atrocities. Just to get some eyes there, for the sake of the people, respectfully. Because this has been going on for a while. I don't know if people have been keeping up with it or not. Again, my role and what I do for the communities in the market and commerce is community engagement. That's a new few keywords that popped up the last few years, but just that community relations side to help you increase your customer base and your community presence ultimately to push production, because to me, as of now, the systems that I'm in, you know, you got to work in order to have a sustainable, that type of life where you're able to, you know, I know a lot of people at least want, and that's why people try to get so hard to the U.S. and those type of countries, because they, I would assume, want to have that work, live, play lifestyle. You're definitely not getting it in challenges like these, respectfully. It can happen anywhere, So I definitely want to just shout out the good faith of every human being to do the best they can to uplift themselves and be a good neighbor, and do what they're supposed to do. Take care of your offspring or whatever that looks like, because it all plays a role. I think in Nashville, Tennessee alone, I think Nashville, Tennessee right now, if I'm not speaking out of ignorance, I forgot the source. It was a community activity, and a guest speaker a couple years ago said that Nashville's metropolitan government has to pay $1 billion a year in program financing to combat children that don't have fathers in their lives. So so like there's different agencies that do different things and provide different services, but that equates to about $1 billion a year to children that don't have fathers in their lives. And there's so many reasons why children don't have fathers in their lives, but those that are father that could be in a child's life, you realize that you can actually decrease government spending, if you will, and your tax-paying citizens' dollars, if you will, by being in your child's life. So I'm not. Everybody got their own situations going on. I'm just bringing up situations where, you want to just think about. Despite global focus on crisis in Europe and the Middle East, the dire situation in Sudan, characterized by extreme suffering, widespread destruction, and horrendous crimes, must not be overlooked, said Jim Risch, the top Republican on the Senate Foreign Committee's Relations. And it's not about that, but I can't agree more. And I didn't read this article before doing this presentation, but that's why I felt I wanted to promote this article, because I can imagine from my experiences, what I've heard in the past in the continent of Africa, the extreme sufferings that go on during these type of activities and wars, the widespread destruction and her horrendous crimes. It must not be overlooked. It must not be overlooked. And so anyone that's in the Senate and House of Representatives, Foreign Relations Committees, thank you for looking into this. You can't overlook it. Now, once you look at it and you guys go through your process, it was looked at, but you can't overlook it. You cannot not look at it. That makes sense. Shout out to those mentioning these articles. In testimony before the House Foreign Affairs Committee early in December, Molly Fee, the State Department's top diplomat for Africa, said appointing a special envoy was under active and serious consideration by the administration, but did not say when it might happen. And so I read this, I think of, I don't know, this is neither here nor there, but I do want to shout out the Honorable Ericana Shambori, who is the former ambassador for the African Union to the United States of America, the former ambassador of the African Union to the United States of America. I'm not speaking out of ignorance, and she's no longer in that position. But there's a lot of movers and shakers that come to my mind that I didn't even throw her out there, but African Union, this is a part of that situation, because you're union, if you will, you're united, if you will, and this is going on within your continent. So I'm just thinking of all these individuals that pop up to my mind, especially when we're looking at they need to find someone to appoint. People know people. I'm going to read this paragraph again. In testimony before the House Foreign Affairs Committee early in December, Molly Fee, the State Department's top diplomat for Africa, Molly, would love to have you on the podcast, said appointing a special envoy was under active and serious consideration by the administration. Great to hear. Huge shout out. Don't want to dismiss that. But did not say when it might happen. We want to see if we can connect with Molly to find out that information. Hamed and Sudanese people trapped in the country by fighting are aware of the ebbing international attention, recalling a conversation with a displaced person who left Kuraturum. Before we look into that next and last paragraph, I want to look up ebbing. What does that mean? I don't know. Ebb, the movement of the tide out to sea. The tide ebbed, recede, go out, retreat, flow back, draw back, fall back. Okay, so it's going back, basically. Falling back. Let's just go with fall back and draw back. Ahmed and Sudanese people trapped in the country by fighting are aware of the falling back, drawing back international attention. That's why I just want to do my part. Recalling a conversation with a displaced person who fled Khartoum, her son was saying to her, this is powerful because it's a lot of moving parts. I wanted to promote, it's public information. Her son was saying to her, why is everyone focusing on Ukraine and other contexts? Why are they forgetting about us? Hamed said, and no one wants to help us, even though they're under shelling. Everything they owned, everything they had, that's been lost, essentially. And everyone has to start from zero. I don't want to dismiss this. Is the reason why I wanted to highlight this article from the Guardian. Why is everyone focusing on Ukraine and other contexts? Which I get. They're huge, they're essential. But why are they forgetting about us? Now, I'm not saying that's the case, but it could be perceived from this article that people feel like they're being forgotten about. And you have people within certain geographical territories and countries that are from those areas that have, concerns, and just for the sake of overall international and international stability, and really getting community engagement, you need those diverse buy-ins. This is one of those situations. It's one, like if I were at the table, I'd be like, look, hey, if I was appointed to some type of African relations diaspora, like this is something we got to make sure, at least from a public relations standpoint, a community engagement standpoint, because in the long run, it's going to help directly and indirectly, not just you, but the less challenges you have, I would assume, the less challenges you have, the less challenges your neighbor have, the less challenges everyone has, the easier it is to build a working relationship, if that makes sense. And so people don't want to feel like they're being forgotten about. People don't want to feel like, hey, it sounds good on paper, but we really know and see, and these are the moments that we really know and see what it really is. We don't want those situations. We don't want those mindsets, because when it's time to campaign and these are the moments. They don't want to see you, even though you're knocking on the door and you're taking pictures and kissing babies. These are the moments right here when you're way off the scene. What are you doing? What have you done? What are you looking to continue to do? And that's the type of people. If you have these type of activities, you might get more registered voters. You might get more registered voters wanting to vote, because they're bought into the fact of, these people actually care. I'm not saying you don't, but you don't want people saying, why are they forgetting about us? No one wants to help us. Everything that we owned, everything we had, everything that we lost is gone. We're starting from zero. And that aid and that conversation is so important, because it just also shows in those areas that, what is going on is a big deal, and people need to kind of tighten up a little bit, but if people that, have the resources see like it's a free for all, they're going to just go for it. And I get it, but at the same time, we need to come at a point in humanity's time where we got to come up with peace. Like, we're all sharp enough now to know that you stepping on someone's toe is going to cause a problem. So move your foot. We all know this. We've been around life and we've seen examples. We can look. That's why it's so important to look at history, if you will, or what has happened in the past, to get data and intelligence. We know we're all sharp people now, and those that are sharp, are obligated to walk in that sharpness by example for those that may not quite be there yet. So I definitely wanted to highlight this. It's a lot. Let me go ahead and get to this article. I hope you've appreciated this article. Um, I believe I'm going to read it something separate, so I'm not going to read that. So that's the end of the article. That's the end of the article. Again, I want to shout out Betsy Reese. I don't know if I shouted her out the first time. No, I shouted out Chris Stein, but who was the? I hope I can highlight everyone here. Who is I believe the writer? I'm assuming. And I'm going to shout out, if I'm not speaking out of ignorance, Betsy Reed. She's the editor of Guardian USA. Thank you for covering this article. I just wanted to do my part and share it. Explore the topics of Sudan, Darfur, South Sudan, Africa, war crimes as well. Let me know what you think about the article. Are things being done? Who can you reach out to? Everything needs to be, as far as comments, in love and professionalism. But let me know what comes to your mind when you think of this article. This is the games I like to play. Not games, but the realm and arena, because you know everything is connected to some degree. And if certain areas are not running smooth and flowing, there's going to be challenges in other areas that may not be perceived as connected to the thing that's having challenges, but it is. And so, because there's so many moving parts, and so making sure that the main functions, the essential areas, are working smooth, starting with your leaders and making sure that they're just overseeing and making sure things are resolved. And then also, you got to do those leaders got to do it for themselves too. It's so important. So just leave your thoughts. Thank you for liking, subscribing, following, pressing that like bell for what you see here. As you know, I do serve as a creative and business advisor, helping you helping you with more insight, access, and resources into urban relations, urban affairs, to include business and community relations, to help you increase your customer base and community presence through lead generation, brand awareness, as well as cross promotion opportunities. If you want to schedule a 30 or 60-minute advising session, visit ldhadvising.com. Click the button that says booking, and we can schedule a 30-minute to 60-minute advising session on how we can increase your marketing visibility, your hiring and retention as well, and just anything community insightful, to include African diaspora areas. And if you're for example, one of these brands that I mentioned, how do you increase your community engagement? How do you increase your marketing and visibility? To make sure that things are running smooth. It's so important. Like, these are things that people miss out on, like the community engagement piece, that if you want a smooth running system, are essential. And that's why I'm just fortunate to be here and to speak about these things. I speak life and love and happiness, prosperity, peace, success into everyone. We're all trying to survive out here. When we're born babies, I believe we're all loving and caring and trying to provide for life and we go through experiences that change that. And so my heart goes out to those and all of us, born into, situations where we have to, live. And so for that, I continue to speak and uplift all those as you do for others. Thank you for liking, again, subscribing, clicking those buttons, and I'll see you in the next conversation. Peace.